nightmare reality. There we go. Boom. We're live. And we're live and we're talking about me becoming a delivery driver. Inspiring start for enemy team. But it's true, like, yeah, so what we've been talking about is nobody has like a job anymore. Like, people don't have career paths, they just have opportunities they grab onto, and it's like, yeah, I got a Volkswagen Caddy. You know, it's pretty big, it's pretty decent, and I've considered being an Uber driver, and yeah, but it's like, actually I could just work for Hermes and just throw packages in the back. And do I have to deliver them on the same day? Like, no, as we know from Friends, it's like you can just sort of turn up whenever you like. It's sort of a drop in, drop out type of job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently waiting for like 5 deliveries from Hermes that, who knows where they are. They could be in a man's car somewhere, just waiting. I don't know.
If I
I
sign
mean,
up, maybe
everybody's on it.
I might get them for you. If I sign up now, I might actually get those packages for you.
Well, I'm off your route, I imagine. But yeah, I don't know. So you're talking about maximizing income streams from any source. So you've got a car. You got this VW Caddy, haven't you? That's quite a big vehicle.
Yeah.
You chuck a lot of packages in the back of that.
Yep.
And you're saying you could also, at the same time as delivering stuff, maybe you could get an Uber fare in every now and again. And you've dropped your parcels off.
Yeah, I
You
could
got an Uber
combine it.
somewhere.
And like on TikTok, a lot of TikTok live streamers do just driving streams, where it'll be like just the camera set up on the dashboard, not even filming the dude, just like filming out the out the front. I'll just be driving up, be like, all right, Dezo, thanks for the 5 bananas. Yeah, we're driving around Rochdale this evening. Yeah, yeah, and like music, oomph, oomph, oomph will be playing, and people will be messaging in like, oh, is that Rochdale? And he's like, yeah, yeah, it is, Terry. Yeah, you've got it just. And it's just that. And I'll swipe past it. I'll be like, fuck that. And then like 4 hours later, I'm back on TikTok, and he's still going. He's driving around at 2 a.m. Yeah, yeah, we're doing it right tonight. Like, so we could combine all three.
Yeah, combinations of things, stacking income streams. Like we were saying, all the clothes you wear are going to be reviews, for example, or sponsored clothing. You don't buy anything; everything's given you to for reviews, and so you'll be reviewing clothes whilst you're driving an Uber fare, and on the way, I assume you couldn't do it on the way because the person probably wouldn't be happy. But after you drop them off, you go and drop off some parcels as you're live streaming your journey around Rochdale or wherever.
Yeah, we could
Min-maxing. How much more could we add to this list?
Get him involved in it. I've got Bob in the car with me. He's on stream. Say hello, Bob.
Yeah, Bob could have his own stream.
Yeah,
it could be a podcast.
Bob's probably already. Bob will be already be. He'll be getting it. And be like, mate, it's all right if I live stream. I'm live streaming as well. Do you want a collab, dude? We'll do a collab. Andrew X Bob.
Bob's stream could be him just constantly getting Ubers around, and he's just like in the back seat saying, talking to his chat and talking to the cab driver. It's a bleak future we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great. It's not great. But it is, I mean, again, just like using things like TikTok. I mean, TikTok, Twitch, you've got women in bathtubs and showing their tits a lot, because probably not because they want, I mean, some of them will want to, but probably a lot of them feel that they have to. Because it is either that, or it's like stacking shelves at Co-op, or it's working in Barclays, taking customers' phones and they're just screaming at you. It's doing like nightmare level jobs. Or you could sit in a bathtub all day. That's not like, and a lot of people do look at that, and we look at that and go, it's disgusting and it's immoral and it's enraging that somebody can do so little and earn so much. But if you could, you would, right? Like, if you could take the easier, I mean, part of it is like, do you have the moral fortitude to, or like the lack of moral fortitude to lower yourself down to it? But most people would take the easy way out. Clearly we don't, as evident by everything that we've gone through with like Prospect and ET and just life in general. But most people would take the easy path. But it doesn't mean that they're happy doing it. They've ended up there, and it's like, okay, it's like pick your poison, choose which circle of hell you want to live in.
It's the easy path for now. It starts off easy, and then it ges nightmarishly difficult.
Yeah.
What if your bath stream starts to, you're too old for the bath stream now. The demographic, they've got the new up and coming bath streamers are taking your viewers. What's happening now? Like, you didn't plan for the future. There's no future for, no long term, momentum, upward momentum in bath streaming.
Although there might be that, there could be like, because we're in the early days here of baths. I mean, that's untapped territory, the frontier of titty girl bath streams. What happens if as they get older, you see like a whole wave of like MILF and GILF,
Yeah, you
like
will. Yeah.
like it'll be a niche market, but that's like untapped frontiers way off into the future. So you could view it as a negative, or you could view it as an investment.
So if you're going to be a titty streamer, bath streamer, you need to, at the same time as starting your streams now, lock in the 40 years from now MILF, GILF market by registering domains,
Yeah,
getting Twitter handles, Twitch stream handles, etc., emotes and everything in anticipation so that when your birthday passes and you're now officially too old, you can hit the ground running because you've already got this account and you're already ready to go. You can immediately click of a finger, you can switch all your assets out now. And now, just like it'd be Halloween or Christmas, instead of Father Christmas, it's just like that. You've got your grey-haired version of your own character in your profile picture, already made 20 years ago in anticipation. Now that's forward thinking.
yeah.
But as I was saying, like the path is easy for now for these people. Like it's a quick win, easy money right now. But the long term is, you look back in your life, you think, well, I sat in a bath. That's what my life was. It was baths. Um, and I got priced out the market by younger people. Whereas what we're trying to do is always a case of, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I do often think like, am I an idiot? I could have such an easier life if
Yeah.
I just lowered my expectations of myself. But I'm hoping that our trend is reversed. Like we start off difficult, we go through the difficult times, and then it gets easier as time goes on. That's what I'm hoping our trajectory is.
Well, and
I mean, we've been doing this a long time now, and it's not getting any easier. So maybe I'm wrong.
we were born right at the peak of human civilization. Like
Yeah.
we came in right at like the point that the weakness of civilization was getting to its like apex, but the damage of that weakness hadn't been thoroughly felt yet. We're now feeling it like 20, 30 years on. Now we're starting to see the cracks turn into like huge fractures as everything comes apart. And so it's like, I think a lot of men, from the, like through 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, grew up in a system that basically encouraged them and told them to basically find a bathtub, like find the equivalent, like take the easy office job, take the easy way out, don't work out, you don't need to really be fit, you can just sit around and play video games all day. And like, obviously we love to play games, but I don't like to see how many people literally just spend like their entire lives sat down, like killing themselves in the process. They take the best things that life can offer and they just squander them and ruin them. And it's like but we've been, a lot of people place the blame on like individuals for doing that. I view it as like, how could you blame most people for acting that way? They weren't taught or shown anything any different. And as you said, it's like, how much easier would our lives be if we just took the easy route and we treated other people worse as well? Like, we've always treated people very respectfully, and we've always tried to elevate ourselves and elevate others around us. It'd be so much easier. Like when I worked at co-op or game, everyone it was like fucking mud pit men. Like everyone just treated each other like shit. You didn't really treat the customers too well. You were trying to fleece them of money. I remember like the big thing was like trying to sell people like 2 gig memory stick extent, and this was back in 2006. Like a 2 gig memory card was like 40, 50 quid. It was like crazy. And it'd be like, you'd just be tricking middle-aged people who don't know any better into buying these stupid things. It was just about treating people like shit constantly and being weak and being underhanded and conniving. And that was rewarded. The more you did that, the more money you'd make. The more, like, we had like teams that would get like commission based on how much shit we could flog. And never for the consumer's best interest, always for what can make Game Incorporated the most money. And that's the same everywhere. That's the same, and we could easily be working in companies like that, or we could just set up a company that does that, that just treats people like shit, treat our staff like shit, don't try and push boundaries, because that's what everybody else is doing, because that's what actually makes money. And it takes it takes a lot of talent and energy to do the opposite and succeed. And that's, I believe, we have the capacity to do that. And I absolutely want to encourage more people to do it. But I think the status quo is always going to be, fuck it, whatever. I'll not even settle for second best. I'll just settle for whatever I can get.
Yeah, it's this decision will In the short term, buy me a new Jaguar or a yacht or whatever. But in the long term, it destroys civilization one piece at a time. Everybody seems to operate on that level because, it makes sense if you people have lives to, and mouths to feed. They need the money. They need we talked about this before, where people are sort of locked into these jobs because they need the money. Um, and so you get these creative people, these people who could do much better things that contribute more greatly to culture in general, who never will never benefit from their contribution because they are locked into the cubicle and they have to work because maybe they've got kids or maybe they just need the money. Um,
Yep.
it is a large part of the system. You can't help being born into the world the way it is. You can't pick and choose when and where you were born. So a lot of people just adapt and survive, and it's a very effective route to adapt and survive, which is just find a job and just sit in it and until you get fed up, I guess. A lot of people find their niche and stay in it. There's nothing wrong with that, but what I take umbrage is that there's a lot of good people going to waste
Oh,
because
tons. Yeah.
the system just does that to you.
Yeah. It because it doesn't encourage. I mean, one, it doesn't encourage like any kind of masculine behavior. So even people who are good and talented, and we know plenty of them, they've been completely worn down and like uh, what would you call it? Not even emasculated, like demasculated. Like I don't view them as men anymore. I don't view them as like women. I just view them as sort of like pointless people who are, yeah, they have way more talent and potential than like I do, but they've sacrificed it all because they don't want to appear competitive, aggressive, driven, don't want to rock the boat. Yeah, I just want to make enough money to go out and drink every Friday, or yeah, cover the mortgage or whatever. And it's like complete, like unwilling to take risks, totally unwilling to take any risk. In doing so, they take the biggest risk imaginable, which is risking wasting your entire life away. But they don't see it like that. They can't see it like that.
I think that's the point we were talking about earlier as well, though, is just, the immediacy versus the long term. A lot of people don't really have the capacity for long term thinking. A lot of people don't care about when they're 85 and they'll look back on their life and reflect on the things they've done. But yeah, there are people who are wasting their talents, and we know people who have gone to waste because they've had to pursue the short term goals. Um, yeah, it is a shame. It's. I mean, I'm not naive enough to think that society will somehow maximize the efficiency and the use of every person in it, and everyone will get to live their creative dream, and all the people who've got this film in their head will have it made one day. That's not going to happen.
No.
Um, but what I don't like is a lot of people who are. It's just the system. It binds you to these things. That's why I left. That's why I've left game development studios twice to work with you, because I've worked for them and thought, okay, this is a fine job. It's fine. I mean, sometimes it can take the piss, but a lot of jobs are in that field anyway. So it's unremarkable in that regard. But I do feel like I'm going to be stagnating here. I'm going to be doing the same thing 10 years from now, and I'll look back and think my contribution that I could have made, I wasn't able to make it because I was too cowardly to take that leap, or I was too greedy and just wanted the cash. Um, I want to do more than that because not because I'm trying to be some sort of superhero, but just because I enjoy doing what we're doing right now, which is making games.
Yeah.
I believe that if we're untethered to as many things as possible, we can make whatever games we want to make, and we can make the best game we can without, like we talked about with publishers, people steering the ship for us. Um, but I recognize, that I'm fortunate enough to be able to just say, right, I resign and leave. I mean, it's not come freely. I've taken a degree of personal cost and,
Yeah.
money and whatever.
Well, and again, well, that's what I mean is like, even though there are people who have lifestyles that require an amount of money or mortgages, families, whatever, but it's like, yeah, at some point, like, it's a mistake to like mentally, it's a mistake to think that by sticking around at that place of employment that that's always going to be safe and secure. Like, as you say, yeah, taking a big risk today for a bigger reward tomorrow might seem foolhardy compared to just playing it safe. But it's like, but playing it safe could be tomorrow you come in and you get handed your resignation notices along with 50 plus other people, which you've experienced personally, and we've seen time and time again throughout the industry. Studios having a successful game and then getting axed, or being at like the top of their game, and all of a sudden it all falls apart. So it's like it's a complete illusion that you have that security. And it's like, yeah, and we've also taken It's like, I honestly, like at this point, I don't give a shit when somebody says to me, "Oh, I can't do it because it'd be too much of a loss." Or in the past, we've had people say, "Well, I would work for you, but you can't pay me enough." It's like, motherfucker, do you know how much I've sacrificed to make this shit work? Do you know how much, like, you guys and other people who've worked with, prospects in the past, like, huge fucking personal loss to try and make something of ourselves? It's like I want to grab people by the skull and be like, yeah, like it takes a lot of fucking effort to make something of yourself. It's not easy. You can't just show up and do 7, 8 hours a day and it's just sort of mediocre. It's like, I just got back from my PT session and I just broke a personal best on my leg raises. It fucking hurts. It's difficult. My central nervous system is fucking shot to shit for the past week and a half. 2 weeks I've been doing deadlifts, like leg raises, everything. I'm not used to it. Like, it's physically difficult to do them. And for the rest of the time, like, my legs hurt from 2 weeks ago. It's like, yeah. Like, but what I get out of that is my PT was saying, like, hey, by December, you're going to be fucking great. And that's the kind of timescale I have to think on, with my physical fitness. And yeah, with your career, with your life and all these things, it's like, yeah, we're talking months and years. We're what, like 12 years into this now? Since when did we graduated 2010, so we're 12 years into this. And we're still taking colossal risks to find that path to success. And it's like, yeah, because that's what it takes. And look at any story of any dude in the past trying to make something, trying to build a business, reach a mountain peak, whatever. It's failure after failure, it's hardship, it's little successes, big successes, setbacks, but it's always about taking risk and having the confidence to be able to like see a thing through. But everyone we speak to goes, "Oh, I'd love to do that, but like I just won't. Oh, that's like because I'll be difficult, so like no." It's just like just cowardly. It's cowardly. And again, like I do get it because literally been raised in a system that rewards cowardice. It rewards people going, "Oh, I'll just be safe." I mean, what was that called? You remember Future Drunk Tim literally was like, this old guy that we knew in this pub at this indie drinks meetup. I told him about everything I wanted to do at Prospect. I'm a young guy. I was like 24, 25. I want to build up this business. I want to hire people, multi-IP studio. We're doing it with Unbox, taking huge risks. And his response is just, "Oh, why would you do that? Probably fail. It'd be difficult." And it's just like, I'm doing it so I don't end up like you. And if I do end up like you, it's because I tried, failed, and like lost my fucking mind. But at least I tried. But how many times have we met people like that where it's just, "Oh, I wouldn't do that because it would just be for failure, and you shouldn't do it either." Just the whole of society is just. I feel like the world that we live in just puts like anchor chains upon anchor chains on you, just constantly pulling you down. No belief, no desire to see anything actually change. People are happy to complain and say, "I wish somebody would do something," and then you try and do it, and you say, "Well, do you want to come with me? Do you want to try this crazy thing?" And almost everyone's like, "No, no, I just want a paycheck, better
That is
paycheck."
that is what a lot of people want. They just want to. I mean, it's the term adult daycare comes to mind for a lot of people
Yeah,
with their jobs. They go to work and they get paid a shitload of money, and they don't. Their jobs are bullshit jobs. They're busy work. No one's if they fuck up, they might get slapped on the wrist. They might get promoted. I don't know. It depends on the nature of the job. Their job doesn't involve someone like if someone dies as a result of you fucking around. It's not a bullshit job. Um, yeah, a lot of people just want to Netflix and chill all the time. And to do that, they want to have the 72-inch television. And to do that, they want to be able to buy a Domino's pizza every day. That takes a lot of money. So they go through the motions, a lot of people. I mean, I felt like I was going through the motions when I went to university, because you're young and you sort of do get railroaded into it. And why do you get railroaded into it? Because the student loans, etc., you get taxed forever.
yep,
Uh, But that's a different subject. That's a huge grift. We'll get into that, I'm sure, at some point. But you go to university because you're getting hit over the head by the schools and by your parents to say, you got to go to university. If you don't go to university, why you're wasting a huge valuable opportunity. You come out as a scholar, you come out like, Einstein or whatever, and you'll get hired by the big law firm. Now there are certain things that you have to go to university for, like, STEM or law or whatever, a lot of bullshit degrees. And video games, when we did that course, the course was pretty bad. And video games was not like degrees was not the traditional way into video games.
it,
Video
it,
games usually you went through
it
QA.
was the biggest piece of dog shit. It was maybe one of the shittest courses in the
Yeah.
country because we were at one of the worst universities in the country, and we were on like toilet paper. We were on a toilet paper degree run by people who are complete fucking idiots. Like those guys were straight up like double digit IQ stupid. It
But
wasn't.
we learned so much on that course by being there. It's like if you get 2 weeks training at boot camp and go into a war, but you'll come out of it a veteran either way. We came out of that course learning things that you couldn't have learned any other way.
Yeah, but it's kind of like if we got the full metal jacket treatment, but that guy, that like our gunnery sergeant was like a total moron, but just as angry. So it's like and just as vindictive,
Yeah, yeah.
but like didn't know anything. So we didn't learn how to like shoot guns. We didn't learn how to like jump over walls, but we did learn a lot about graft and like human nature, especially from our peers. We had a lot of totally spineless peers who would suck up to these people and really like degrade themselves in their behavior. But I learned so much from that. I mean, yeah, pre-uni, I was like introverted. I had a horrible time at school and I was completely just in a shell. And all those experiences helped me break out of that shell and realize like, oh yeah, the reason I seem to have disagreements with people a lot is because like one, I think I'm just different from the average person, but two, I don't want to be like them. Where other people see spineless behavior and go, oh, that actually seems to be working, I'll do that as well. I'm like physically repulsed to the point of nausea by it. And it started to make me realize like, hang on, why am I letting everybody else like beat me down? Why am I feeling like I'm always wrong or I'm not right when the status quo, the general way of behaving is just to be like sludge, just to whatever container you put in, you just conform to it and you just go along with it.
I've seen that. I mean, when I see that sort of behavior, I see it as yeah, it's a short-term victory, but it's empire built on sand. You're standing on a rug, and it's nice and comfortable, but someone can just pull it from underneath you. All the things that you've got were given to you, and they can be taken from you. I've always preferred to, at least as far as I've been able to, build my own thing
Mm.
because you've got it then. It's yours. I mean, yes, things can always be taken from you in some way, but when I was at Cody's and all those people got made redundant, I thought, right, this is I go into work every day, but what if I didn't? What if Codemasters had enough of me and I also I got the axe? Then I realized that you doing the indie stuff were no less, no, not necessarily any less secure than I was. I just felt more secure because I was in a big office and there was the illusion, every month you get the paid check in, but even then that started to slip occasionally. So it was the illusion, the confidence illusion, kind of like the stock market. Some stocks, the confidence in them is rock solid, so they go up, but it's built on confidence. And as soon as the confidence gets shaken, the value goes down. And my confidence in being at a AAA studio, I learned a lesson there. Is like you're not necessarily secure in any of these jobs, and you could be doing the best work you've ever done, but you still get killed because of someone's job, a decision, or an idea down the line, nothing to do with you. The ramifications of that take you out. We've heard stories about people we know and that happened to them. It's happened to us essentially.
Yeah.
Uh,
And even if you think you are in this mindset of like, yeah, working in a big studio is safe and secure, again there's that element of like, well, what are you doing at that studio? Like when I got that kind of internship placement at Dubbit and rocked up, I enter this place and it's like 100 people, big kind of studio open layout type thing, and there's artwork and loads of different games going on. I thought this is awesome, but like everybody was like quiet and like morose. And I would start because I was working with one of the lead writers who kind of got me that in, and that meant that I was suddenly like kind of at the top of several projects, like looking down, and I got to talk to loads of different people very, very quickly. And I remember talking to one of these artists. I had to go and do a review with them or whatever, and they were making this big environment for this like Magic Club Penguin type game and the really intricate artwork. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was basically like, oh, it'll probably all just get trashed again. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, we've restarted this game 3 times. We've been working on it for like 6 years. And I was like, what? Like this massive like online Club Penguin thing. It's never actually released. They kept starting it, working on it. Clients wanted a huge change. It would take a break and then it would restart. And this guy was like totally miserable. He's painting this like lovely, delightful environment of like cute characters and nice artwork, but he's just like morose. And that's how everybody was. And I realized very quickly, and at the time when that internship came to an end, I was like, fuck. Like, I had like a mental breakdown because I just wanted an in to the games industry. And that was the first real opportunity I'd got. And within like a couple of weeks, it's been completely rejected. I did great work and they rejected me. That's fine because in retrospect, thank fuck I didn't get stuck, bogged down in that. Like, if I'd stayed there, I'd probably still be working on that fucking game or some other piece of shit. Not having fun, just turning up, doing my 9 to 5. And it's like that was that experience is what directly led to us going like, okay, let's incorporate Prospect. I mean, I think I literally incorporated Prospect because of that and evolved it from a modding group into a business. And it's like, I'm glad that happened to me, but like how many other people have been through these experiences, like getting fired from Cody's and then a few months later they offer you your job back and you go straight back to them. No lessons learned. Just, yep, okay.
Yeah.
Abuse me more. They say, oh, thank God, security. Yeah, I got fired by Codemasters. I've been out in the sticks for 3 months, but they're offering me a job. Oh, thank God, I'm now safe and secure again. It's got to be school. It's got to be the fact that you spend the first like 15 years of your life like turning up doing a 9 to 5. So it just bakes into your head that if you're not turning up to a building, sat in rows with other people doing a 9 to 5, then like your life is over. Like your life doesn't exist. Like almost like that's breaking the rules. Because up until we didn't have like everybody going to school until like 1870. So before then, it was like you worked on farms, or you went on a ship and went around the world, or joined the military. You learn as you went. But now it's nope. You have to go to school. You have to jump through all the same hoops as everybody else. And so when it comes to being in like the working world, it's almost like people's brains. Maybe that's why I'm the way I am, because I hated school to the point that I rejected it. I never paid attention. Like I got through my GCSEs. I have a friend who I see every couple of years, and every time he sees me, he brings up this story because it's like one of his favorite stories ever. During our GCSEs, I was so fucking zoned out of this shit. I would go into an exam, and I would do this. I would do 10 minutes of the exam, and then I would put my head on the desk and go to sleep for about 15, 20 minutes. I would wake up. I would do another 10 minutes of work. And I would get through the exams that way because I was so fucking done by that point. And he was sat behind me in one of these, and he was like, I couldn't believe what you were doing. Everybody, this massive room, 150 students, all scribbling away, doing their trigonometry or whatever. And he was like, you were sleeping in your GCSEs. Because I didn't give a shit. I was like, I don't care if I pass or fail. I didn't give a shit through college or really even uni, to be fair. Like, I gave a shit about what we did, but I didn't give a fuck what our lecturers told us because they were stupid. They were given, they didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't provide, I mean, they were providing us PCs without sound cards. We didn't have enough chairs in the, for the first like semester. We didn't have enough chairs for everybody. So people like sharing chairs. It was a complete joke. And so I think so when I entered the workforce world, like entered the real world, immediately I was like, I don't like this. Because this feels just like the school thing. So whereas most people were able to just fit in, and they feel like they have to, because that's just how life works, I've always taken it as like, basically just fuck that. I'm not doing things the way that you tell me to. I'm not doing things just because that's the way it's meant to be. I'm going to do something different.
I think that school, the stealth lesson that they are actually teaching you, forget all the maths and science and languages or whatever, what they're really teaching you to do is to obey authority and follow orders.
Yep.
You'll go to lessons and this, that, and the other. You spend 50 minutes or whatever it would be in a subject, and then immediately, like a schizophrenic, you'll jump into a different subject. Not like at university where you're focusing on a subject for a long time. Now, I get that school's got to be more general because it's got to provide you with that grounding, but what's the thing that is constantly over your head And that is basically don't cause trouble, do what you're told,
Yep.
turn up to the thing on time, follow instructions. The teacher is later in life replaced with the policeman, and that's
Yeah.
basically the real function of school is to turn you into someone who recognizes authority and does what it says. And that authority can be, it's a shapeshifter. It can be a teacher, it can be a police officer, it can be a doctor, it can be anybody who has the backing of the state. Um, and that's what school really is, to teach it to follow orders. And
Yeah.
it's a happy accident if you actually become. They want you to be an employable unit of taxation,
yep.
but it's a happy accident if you become a doctor or if you become, a lawyer or someone high up, highfalutin stuff.
And
If you
even
if you
and even
if you succeed,
those people have to real like they're tethered up by rules and laws, up the wazoo. So it's like
yeah,
all of it's anti-entrepreneurialship. It's all about fit in with the group, do as you're told, obey your boss, obey the police, obey the tax man, obey everybody, and don't think about stepping out of line. And then again, but society then turns around and goes, "Why are things not getting better?" And it's like things got better before because there were innovators, because people would go, like, shit, what could I do with like fire and water? Oh, I could make steam. Steam could make like metal move. I'll just do that. Like, look at any story of any inventor from the past like 500 years, and it's usually some weird autistic freak just in his room, like tinkering with stuff. And then, like, everyone knows the name Tesla. Everyone loves Tesla, and you look at who Tesla is. It's like he's a fucking nut job. He's a weirdo nut job who didn't do as he was told. He would always go off and into the sticks and just do whatever he wanted. But look at what he did. It's the same with all of these guys. But we live in a society that is so anti that yeah, as we see, I mean, I know that we keep referring to people, but there is one person in particular who we know who is fucking great. He's amazing, and I'd say he's just throwing his life away. He's just completely checked out, and it's like he should be so much more than what he is, and you could say he should be making more money or whatever, but it's not about the money. It's about like adding stuff to reality for the benefit of everybody. It betters, doing things which better you, which better other people, which creates a better future for everybody. That's really what we're getting at. And
yeah,
we're in a system that takes people like that, destroys them, but then demands we still need progress, we still need progression, we need things to improve. Well, how? You took away any incentive to be an innovator, to be a creator.
yeah. From my perspective, it is purely selfish. Like if these people are able to gift us with their creations, my life gets better. I get to enjoy new things, new cool stuff. That's great. It makes my life, percentage wise, a little bit better, and that a little more bearable, etc. So it's a good thing. And yeah, these are people who get ground down and they don't ever realize these visions. You hear stories like, Squid Game or whatever was been 10 years before it was ever taken up, and
Yeah.
that's just that's an example of just a TV show. There's more serious examples of people's contributions could everyone could benefit from them, but we'll never hear of them because they're buried basically by the system.
Yeah, and also if you say the wrong thing, you've also got that hanging over your head. It's like, hey, fit in, do the right thing, but also make loads of money and be creative, but don't be too creative. Don't go too out into the sticks, or we'll kill you.
Well, the spirit. Let's go back to the school point of like what they're teaching you to follow. They're teaching you to follow authority and follow orders. They're trying to establish this sort of model citizenship idea of you being a model, a star pupil. You do your best work, you do what the teacher says, great stuff, and you'll come out the other end and you'll be earning millions of pounds because everyone will love you because you work hard and you do what you're told. What they, the system really does not want the spirit of entrepreneurship to be recognized. They want, because that is the antithesis of what they want. They don't want independent thinkers. They want people who will do what they're told,
Yep.
people who will do what they're told to death. If you do this, you'll be rewarded like this. Yeah, you'll probably die, but whatever. That's essentially what, like, the
Jump
more
in the
kitchen
foam pit. Jump in
jump
the
in the foam. But it goes back through history, the concept of the nation and duty and honor. These have been used to basically get people to kill themselves for a political goal. But it's not, a politician is not saying, if you die, I get to expand my personal power or sphere of influence. It's if you die, you're saving your family from a potential horrifying future, or the things that you care about won't continue to exist. So these sorts of things have always been used in today's society. I think, yeah, what they want is this sort of completely nondescript, model citizen who can be, it's just a unit of taxation until they die, and they will do what they're told because they can be pressured through social media or the media in general. Just yeah, like ant people basically that could be stepped on at any moment.
And
And the
re
spirit of entrepreneurship is the opposite of that. That's what is a threat to that, because an entrepreneur is someone who sees an opportunity and seizes it, jumps on it and does something with it and succeeds. And if there's too many people like that, you can't have your despotic regime
Yeah,
because
and
they'll
and
overthrow you.
people like that, people like us, you need to have truth at the core of what you do. There has to be objective truth. So that you can just measure yourself against, measure your progress against those objective truths. And what they want is a world in which everybody is, yeah, ant-like, but also like reprogrammable. I mean, it's like the amount that society has changed in the past 5-10 years, and what the rules are of what you can and cannot say, acceptable discourse, the direction that politics is going, the constant beating of like, be on the right side of history as if there is some kind of preordained trajectory that you have to follow, which, by the way, is being laid out by like banking conglomerates and politicians who are being paid off by like shadowy trillionaire elites. It's like, that's what they want all of us to be like, so that, it doesn't matter if suddenly all of our moral systems change on a dime. We should just be down with that. In the same way that like a firmware update or like a new phone changes things, you should just sit back and accept it.
Yeah, and be undemanding and unquestioning. And they use the primary way the two primary ways are fear and shame. If they can instill those into you, it works on most people.
Yep.
If you don't believe this, there must be something wrong with you. You should be ashamed. Or if you don't believe this, you will personally suffer. If you don't think this, if you don't do this, you'll perish, you'll die. You'll lose money. So it
But
works on pretty much everybody, because people don't have the time to analyze every single thing they're hit with and scrutinize it and go over it and say, okay, this is good, this is bad. People have to follow leaders in a lot of these subjects.
well, perfect example, and I'm going to try and do this in a way where we don't get banned by Twitch. So I've got to say things in a way. Yep, I know, Michael. I'm gonna like. So, perfect example of this. Do you remember that whole like experimental goo that everybody sort of was like forced to take at one point, or like threatened to take, and now, as of like yesterday, day before, it's been revealed that like a certain company didn't do any testing on the actual effects of what that goo does. Like the purpose the goo was designed for, they never actually tested to see if the goo did that thing. But we were all told, if you don't take this goo, then grandma's gonna not have a good time, and your family's not gonna have a good time. Do you remember last year, this time last year, they were telling us like winter of death is upon us. You need to gobble the goo. So basically they want us to gobble up the goo. And how did they do that? They said, look, everybody's going to die, and if you don't do it, then you are basically, it's like stabbing your grandma in the head. It's like stomping on babies. You're literally the reason society's going to collapse. Now it turns out all of that was complete shit, and they've admitted it. They've said it outright. And it's like, this, yeah, they wanted us to be goo garglers. I guess you're either an entrepreneur or you're a goo gargler. Okay, like that's how it is. But that, we literally went through like 2 years of that. That was a solid 2-year period of just fear and shame cranked up to 11. And what I find fucking amazing is like, no one's really talking about that. We were all just moving on, and it's like, does no one remember when they completely overplayed their hand and dialed that shit up so far that it became obvious that this is how they operate? Does nobody give a shit?
I think that's the truth. People don't give a shit because they want to watch Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Like I was in a restaurant a week or two ago. I was looking around, everyone's laughing and screaming and I was just thinking like, but it's like, does no one remember we couldn't do this for like years, and like we all lost our collective fucking minds. All of our mental and physical health went out the window. Loads of people died because of that, by the way. Loads of people's lives were destroyed. And now we're just moving on. And again, it's like it's like
those people's lives who are destroyed, they're out of sight, out of mind.
I guess, yeah. Bye. See you later.
In the restaurant, everything's fine. You could have like Turbo Mech Warrior World War III going on as long as it's around the corner from the restaurant, I'll see it at your table. Um, the worst things in the world are happening just around the corner. But can I have the rosé or whatever, please? Some whatever. It's out of sight, out of mind, and I'm very comfortable with my bread and circuses, so it doesn't matter. And memory holding things works very well as well, because people, I think just the social memory of things is so short anyway. They want to revive and resurrect and remake things over and over again. I do feel like we are going to be in this horrible wheel spinning phase for the rest of the 21st century, where it's
Yeah.
like
Well,
going to be a Star Wars 1 remake in 5 years, that sort of shit.
was like I've seen a lot of, to be fair, I've seen many people tweet and apologize. Like they've tweeted like apologies saying the way that I behaved, for the fact that this information's now coming out. I was arduently gobble the goo, and now I realize maybe the people who are saying not even don't gobble the goo, but can we just stop and think about this for a second before gobbling the goo? I apologize to those people. And it's like, cool, but why did you? And I've seen a lot of like let's call it trust the teachers. That's not what they're saying, but that's what I'm reading it like, is when teacher says something, you have to accept it. And you'd think that, hey, now that it's been revealed that the teachers are bullshit artists and they actually don't know what they're talking about, they're just being paid, hey, just doing my job, dude. They've just turned up and they just say what's in the book. They just read the script. They don't know if the script is right or wrong. It's their job to say it's right and enforce that. Are people going to, now moving forwards, continue to trust teacher? And yeah,
Well, the irony is, the teacher, the actual teachers, not the figurative teacher that we used to hear, does the same thing. They read from the curriculum, the national curriculum,
yeah,
and there is a national. There are national curriculums and equivalents of those for pretty much every sort of subject that was passed out to the public in general. And everyone has to march, in lockstep, as they say,
yep,
so that they can beguile the public at large with this bullshit. And if it's hitting them from enough angles, and if enough comedians and football players and Walker's Crisp advertising men and whatever you care to name, streamers and professional skateboarders and musicians, if they're all telling you that this goo is going to make your life better and you're going to get 2 inches taller, you better take it, right? And the trick is as well, the best part of it, the most insidious part of the trick is these people believe it. They believe it. They're not lying to you. They're not. They believe it. They
yeah,
believe they're doing things for your own benefit. It's just that they are being given a very warped set of information and facts and half facts and lies, and so they're never telling you outright lies. They're telling you half and half, but they believe it, so they're not liars, and they're not trying to hurt people. They're trying to save people. They're trying to do things with the best intentions, but that's what the road to hell is paved with.
yep. I guess that a good lesson to take from it, or at least a lesson I've taken, is like, I'm really glad I stuck with my gut instinct, because I remember, what was it, February 2020, you and I were walking through Liverpool and I was talking to you
Yeah.
about all this shit that I'm seeing coming out of China, and because back at that point it was sort of, no one was talking about it, but you could see stuff happening online, and it felt, I was walking around in like with a sensation of dread, because I was like, there's no way this is getting contained. There is absolutely no fucking way. And everyone's walking around like it's a goddamn Enya video. Nobody seemed to be talking about or reacting. And I very quickly went from feeling like that to being incredibly dubious. Like my gut instinct almost from the get-go. When they were talking about stay in your house for 2 weeks, I was not on board with that. Right off the bat, I was like, this is a terrible way to approach this problem, and it sets a horrible precedent. And then look what happened for the next 2 years. And so I don't think, what we shouldn't expect is really society to change. We shouldn't expect human nature to change, especially in the context of a system which turns everybody into like, goo gobbling drones. What we should be trying to do is get the message out that like, hey, if your gut instinct kicks in and says this doesn't seem true, more than likely you're somebody who values truth. You don't just want to go along with the flow. And my advice to you would be follow that gut instinct as hard as possible, because I'm goo free. Pretty much everybody I know is not goo free. They got goo in their system. And much like the toothpaste tube that you squeeze, you can't put the goo back in. It's it's kind of the reverse. You can't get the goo back out. And so whatever happens moving forwards, and I'm not saying necessarily anything bad happens when you gobble the goo, but my gut instinct says that bad things do happen, and we'll see what takes place next. But who knows what's coming down the line? And it's not just like I'm trying to think of how to say this. It's not just like macro health issues, but it's also in every single like industry or way of life, like in like the fitness world, like gear is becoming a huge. I didn't realize like basically everybody's on gear. Everybody's taking like anabolic steroids. Everybody's taking like, and especially like teenagers, like it's crazy, and it's being promoted as a
that phrase.
huh?
Gear.
Yeah,
They
the trend
phrase.
gear.
Cyberpunk.
It's becoming a huge thing. It's like a massive problem that again nobody's addressing, nobody's talking about really, and loads of people are promoting and pushing and saying, "Oh, don't worry, hey, I'm a big muscly guy, I'm fine. Trust me, I'm an expert." People going, "Yep, cool. I'm gonna start putting steroids into my system at age 15," and it's like again, I am, I'm gear free, I'm goo free, I'm gear free, I'm free of just about everything. I was gluten free until recently, so. As much as possible, like whenever my guts tell me, hey, this doesn't seem right, and everybody if everybody says it's right and everybody says do it, my guts go nope, wrong, incorrect. But just you got to be careful about what you say.
I think we've evolved for our gut instinct to warn us of dangers.
Yep.
But the dangers that it warns us of are things like, oh, that's a big drop, or that's a dark cave with a big pair of teeth in it. I'm not going to go down there. Or that's a giant creature with fangs and claws. That's how our instinct is normally. Or, that man looks very angry and he's going to throw a rock at me. Those are the sorts of instincts that we've naturally evolved, and we all have those. But the modern world doesn't operate in those terms anymore. Yeah, occasionally you get a man who's angry, throwing rocks at you, whatever. That sort of stuff can still happen.
Yeah.
But the real threats now are so imperceptible and so insidious that even if you have an instinctual, even if you've developed this instinct to recognize when things aren't right, you still can't pinpoint what it is. You can't say something's not right, it's because of this, this, and the other, because things are so complex now and so well hidden and communicated in such like mealy-mouthed, insidious forms that you can say things and you can't even explain it to yourself. If you have a problem with something, you can't articulate it.
Mm.
We seem to live in this like fog of war, and so your instincts, they are not prepared for the future, the world that we're building for ourselves.
Yeah, and we've not really been prepared for the world that we've been living in for the past, 60, 70 years. Just completely.
So a lot of people, they will just say, okay, this is good because I've been told it's good. This is bad because I've been told it's bad. And if they ever had a gut instinct response, they wouldn't listen to it because they'd say that, oh, yeah, they were being unreasonable. And it's fair enough to say that because we live in this age of, like I said, it's your instinct is telling you something, but it's like this sort of caveman version of yourself is calling out to you from the Stone Age to say, don't do it, that's wrong. But there's no way he can understand why it's wrong or bad because there's no fangs and claws and big drops and men with rocks involved. It's like very complicated notions like you have to be an expert in to understand or whatever. It's we're building a world for ourselves that we're not evolved to live in, and so you'll be killed in ways that you've never even imagined. Like you'll do things thinking this is how it's been a very unintuitive world where things should happen like this, but they don't happen like that because it's an unintuitive fantasy land that we're building for ourselves.
Yeah, where people tell you things like this goo will save you and then it kills you. That's the complete reverse. And there's no grounding or context for like in your animal brain for detecting that's it can't even register that as a threat. So I do kind of get like I come across as like crazy to a lot of people when I talk about this kind of stuff and I get that like my experiences, like my upbringing has set my threat switch to like always on. So like I'm constantly under the assumption, like I find trusting people incredibly difficult. I find trusting anything incredibly difficult because I grew up in an environment where I had to be constantly on edge, and there was a lot of lying. I was constantly being lied to, and I was constantly being told to lie in order to like keep up an illusion that everything's hunky dory in my life when it absolutely wasn't. And I had to do that for years and years and years. And so like my switch is just constantly flicked to, detect threats in any place, and don't trust something until we've like verified it. And even then, be suspicious. So I have like, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because it does make certain aspects of life difficult, but it does mean that when shit like this happens, my immediate reaction is I've never had the reaction of like, just go with the flow. And I have people tell me that all the time. Andrew, just relax. Andrew, just calm down. Just settle in and just go do whatever. And it's like, physically can't, completely incapable, just not how my brain's wired. But it lets me spot these kinds of threats from afar. The things, all the way back to uni, all the shit that we did from year one onwards, raising issues with the course and with the people. We started that almost immediately because I recognized like, this is bullshit. And then when I'm told, hey, stay in your house, it's good for you, I was like, this is bullshit. Gobble this goo, that's bullshit at every stage, whatever it is. But most people just aren't built like that, because we are like, herd. We're social animals.
We've evolved that way. I mean, to go back to the tribal times, it doesn't work to have everybody be a leader, because you'll get everyone fighting each other. What you need is like 4 leaders and 50 followers, because the leaders can say, do this. And that we'll have evolved this to that point, because that will work brilliantly for tribal Stone Age people. That's how you get stuff done, because there's hardly any like discussions and factions and fractiousness. If there is, they split off and they take their followers with them, and so you can't have everyone be a leader, and that's the way we've evolved. And so you get these people who can appear to be leaders, or who can be appointed leaders by the sort of the powers that be, and they can lead these flocks of people to wherever they want them to go, and they can be very easily manipulated. I mean, I like to think, and I think it's not unreasonable to say, but I have always tried to have the appearance of going along with the flow, but never actually going along with the flow.
Yeah.
Like when I was at school, I remember I never did any homework. I think I only did homework when there was like a laser focus on me. And like for German, I never did any homework for the entire time I did German, like years. But the teacher always gave me good marks, and it was never brought up, because I always appeared to be like an attentive student, only at the moments when she was paying attention, though. Like I see life as kind of like a stealth game, basically. And when they want to build, like a panopticon, you can't tell when they're looking at you, but if you can figure out when they are looking at you, you can appear a certain way, and then when they're not looking at you, you can do what you're going to do. So I just sort of I didn't give a shit about school either, but I sort of stealthed my way through it. So there's never any issues with me. When there was issues, you sort of give the appearance, and then yes, I won't fall asleep in this test, but I also won't give a shit about a test if you turn your back. Test, I'll whatever. So that's my sort of approach. Where it counts, follow your instinct. Give or take a bit here or there. It's not necessarily like a good way to be, I guess. It's kind of like playing life like a stealth game. But I mean, it give you quiet life. You get a quiet life out of it, I guess.
Yeah, and then that very much in terms of like the business and how we've operated professionally, that is how we've done things for years. And surprise surprise, turns out it's not benefited in any way, shape or form. Like trying to be professional, trying to fit in, trying to conform, it's always that's the thing that for years I've been feeling like my gut saying, we got to say something, we got to do something. Like I hate this, I fucking hate this. But you got a business, you got to fit in, you got to take your lumps and all that kind of shit. And now realizing, and then losing my business and losing everything and going, hang on, I did everything right. Like, it's not necessarily that I said the right things, but I never said the wrong thing. I always, and when people pushed us to do certain things and, basically threatened us with, industry blacklisting or bad mouthing behind the scenes, we went, okay, yes, yes, sir, how high can I jump, sir? We did all that. And it didn't work. We knocked fucking ball after ball out of the park, and we never complained, and we never called out people's bullshit. and look where it got us. So, just us doing things, shows like this and the content we're going to put out there and the way that we're going to operate moving forwards, putting honesty, and truthfulness first and saying to hell with the consequences, because the consequences of turtle shelling and trying to fit in are so much worse. Short term, mid term, long term, that's all shit as well. That's all going to lead to probably a worse outcome. So I'm kind of glad. I'm glad we tried it. I'm glad we went through the process and the steps that we did. And I'm glad we're doing this now. Whether or not it works, I mean, obviously, what do you think, Michael? Do you think GU terminology, does that get us around TOS on everything?
Yeah, we're fine on that. That's more than vague enough.
Sick. Because that is how we're still gonna have to operate like that, because we live in a YAG world. See there, I'm using that word. It's a YAG world, and it's not just the rules of the platforms that we've got to be careful of. It's also like the police state that we live in. Like we live in a country that doesn't have any freedom of speech laws. We have regressive speech laws. You can go to jail. You can be arrested for tweeting. You can be arrested for words. You can be arrested for genuine opinions that you have. So only if you're a certain race, though. If you're, certain races can say whatever the fuck they want, but if you are looking like us, then that's absolutely not the case. Like you are not getting away with anything. So, we've got to be really careful still. We've got to be truthful and honest, but we also have to accept the reality of the situation, which is, most people are not ready to hear this stuff. And the people in power absolutely do not want people speaking openly and honestly. And that really does, I think that goes a long way of saying like how sick and fucked up the world that we live in is. That being truthful and honest is rewarded with prison sentences, harassment, loss of work, social ostracization, sometimes death, and essentially death, living death. And being completely dishonest, never saying what you think, and also maliciously pushing lies is a way to find huge levels of success. Being a politician and doing things that way gets you a life like Tony Blair currently has. Gets you to the point where you're a billionaire and when you're part of an invincible elite class. So, that says a lot about the world that we live in. And I really want to connect with more people and kind of help them figure out, help us figure out and help others figure out, like, how are we going to move forwards living in this system? Because we need to change it in some capacity. We're not going to get rid of the scum and villainy element. Again, I was about to say names. The figures in power who do things to kids, the figures in power who lie about WMDs and all these kinds of things. We're not going to get rid of them. So it's less about like, hey, it's time to like save the country and save Western civilization. It's more about how do we, in this 21st century upside down nightmare world, how do those of us who actually have our heads screwed on live and exist and don't just get black bagged and executed?
Well, there's the way that I was sort of outlining with my German lessons, where you could stealth it, where if you can figure out how to play the system, you can stealth game it, but that doesn't change anything really. That's just, you have to live your life as if you're a Solid Snake, and it's not I can imagine that would be not a pleasant way to live.
Because you're going to be constantly basically every single time the spotlight shines on you, you've got to immediately you've got to suddenly become something you've not, and that could happen at any point. Anybody could be listening. We live in a world where like there's always a camera and microphone watching and listening to you.
Yeah.
During the GU saga, it was normal for the state to tell people to rat on neighbors and rat on your friends if they were doing something that was, a naughty no-no thing, like stepping outside for vital oxygen and vitamin D intake. You would get punished for that. So, I think that is a way that was viable for probably the past couple of decades and just isn't really moving forwards, unless you want to live a life of like extreme stress and anxiety. I'd rather have less money and less opportunity, but feel feel freer and feel more like me, and not be compromising myself constantly day after day, than the opposite, which is yeah, just basically kowtowing and going along with things, and yeah, secretly going, haha, I don't actually believe any of this, hee hee, but but still basically just going along with the flow anyway, which we know plenty of people who do that, because we get messages from them regularly going, hey, love what you're doing and love you saying this and doing that and fighting the good fight. I'm not gonna do it. And it's like, okay, well, you're probably gonna be, you'll be safe but miserable. Well done. Again, very unmasculine.
Well, it's also, that is herd behavior, it's follower behavior.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the big threat is that the powers that be who can manipulate all this, they can manipulate the media, etc., and people's perceptions, and they can build consensus amongst the public. They've spent decades figuring this stuff out, and so they can put you in a bind. They can say, well, yeah, I agree with you, but I can't say that I agree with you, because if I do, I'm destroyed in this way or that way, or I'm no longer able to do this or that, or I'm pressured in this way or that way. Yeah, it's troubling times indeed, and like I said, we didn't evolve to live in this world, so a lot of people, they're basically just ill-equipped. I'm not saying that I'm particularly equipped. This future world, whatever we're heading towards, it's
Well,
it's going to catch a lot of us off guard.
you are by way of being conscious and aware of this shit in the first place.
That might not be enough. That maybe being conscious and aware of it
Yeah.
is the evolutionary trait that goes extinct in this new world that is emerging.
Maybe, but I do view it as it is the forest kind of burning down, but from that there is tremendous opportunity moving forwards. Like there is got to stop thinking in terms of, yeah, you're part of a group which is part of a wider group which is part of a nation which has a system of rules and laws. It's like, because none of those rules and laws are enforced fairly or accurately anymore. Like justice in this country is dead. There's no money for the police, and even if there is, they just don't do a good job. They do a terrible job. And that's the same across the board with it. Infrastructure, policing, healthcare, it's all terrible. But that doesn't mean there isn't good in there. That doesn't mean there aren't opportunities in there. And again, we should think more about the world than just that. Just because we live in this country doesn't mean there aren't opportunities globally and digitally to take advantage of. So I view it as, so long as we are acknowledging the system as is moving forwards, and we acknowledge that we're not really a part of it, it doesn't give a fuck about us, it actually doesn't like us and would like to stamp people like us out. So long as we know what to avoid. Again, I'm trying to kind of couch my terms here so I stay in TOS. But so long as we operate with that knowledge in mind, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for us moving forwards, and I think this world is going to radically change. And things like everything Kanye's doing right now, for example, is creating massive, massive shockwaves in the political and social fabric of the West. And it was the same with the Yellow Jacket stuff in France, and the Trump election, and Brexit. There's successive shockwaves going through civilization that are changing things and breaking the status quo. And I think now is a better time than any for us to just go headlong into that. It's a whole new world. It's not going to, the world of today is not going to be what happens tomorrow. And so I don't think we should feel too glum or sad that a lot of things suck. It's like, yeah, that's, look at history. That's a cyclical process. There are time periods where things suck. Okay, but what happens if you know how to gain the fall, then the inevitable rise you can surf on the back of. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, it's just requires an intense amount of energy and concentration, luck.
It requires because I go back to sort of the evolutionary point. We can't evolve in the next 10 years, but we can become a different. I imagine 10 years from now we're going to be different types of people. We're going to be savvy in new ways. I never thought I'd ever have to worry about goo, for instance, and about how the technicalities of goo. I never cared about that in the past. So in the future, that people are going to be knowledgeable on subjects that the average like layman would have no interest in, or it'd never come up in his normal natural life, because we're living in a natural state. Yeah, you're going to have to become like a sort of, not a world resource, but knowledgeable on this sort of stuff. It'd be like having to learn another language. Um, it's going to be it's going to be a fascinating few years. I don't know. I can just imagine. I can imagine us. My worry is we are doing well, and then it's blocked or taken from us in some sort of fatal way.
Yeah.
Because that seems to happen. That's the
I
trajectory.
mean, that's been the story of our lives so far as well, is trying to do things and getting rug pulled. But
the funny thing is that was, like, to go back to the point earlier about how we were doing as we expected, following the rules, and that still happened.
Yeah, so we've said this a number of times, and this is genuinely my belief. Like, if enemy team continues on the path that we are setting out before ourselves, where we go against the flow, we say what we believe, we encourage other people to do the same, we make the products we want to make, we're unflinching in that desire. And when people tell us, you can't do that, you can't say that, you gotta fit in, and we say, fuck yourself, that's inevitably going to lead to us having things taken from us. Again, like what we're seeing happening with Kanye right now. He's saying what he thinks. He's saying based on his life experiences. He's saying words, and he's had his bank account shut down. He's getting banned off social media. He's getting blacklisted by the media world that he's a part of, the music industry. And it's like, what is he doing? He's saying what he thinks. Okay,
in what he's saying as well by this action.
It's the classic, like, hey, these people have got a ton of power and they control everything, and then they're like, hey, we're going to shut you down for saying that. Why isn't it happening to others? I was saying this, I think, to you before, Michael. Like, why are there like murderers on Twitter? There are murderers with like verified Twitter accounts. Now they're allowed to operate on Twitter. People who have literally gone to jail and been released, and we know that they killed people. That's fine, but people who have never done anything like that, but have said words, are being completely removed from existence, essentially, being depersoned. And it's like, it's because of that effect it has on the status quo. It's because of the effect that it has on the system and structure.
I think that...
So it's going to happen to us. Like, I'm not, obviously we don't necessarily have the same opinions as people like that, as guys like Kanye, but he's someone who's clearly a truth seeker. And there's been tons of people recently who have been unpersoned and blacklisted for seeking the truth. And it's like that. So I view it as an inevitability. It's going to happen, but that's not a bad thing. It's like, it is what it is. We'll then take that and find the opportunity in that experience.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I saw all those redundancies at Codemasters. One of the guys I used to go airsoft with said, it's sort of earning your stripes. If you've been made redundant in the games industry, you've got it's like not a badge of honor, but you've earned your stripes. You've gone through that process.
Yeah,
which I thought was like, it's awful. Like, that's like you were blown up, but you get to boast about it later on, I guess, or I don't know, misery loves company and all that sort of stuff. I imagine it'd be a similar sort of situation. Like, if you haven't been kicked off Twitch, you must be some sort of liar or someone who doesn't say much. If you say the truth, you'll be kicked off, right? People, these things become badges of honor, basically.
Yeah, if you've not been kicked off, you've probably been sat in a fucking bathtub making blub 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 noises into a microphone. Like, wow, well done, amazing. So we know that we're never going to do that. We never would have done that, but we're never going to. We're never going to lower ourselves to doing anything like that. We're going to say what we want to say. We're going to seek the truth. We're going to make the games that we want to make. We're going to live our lives in an unapologetic way. And when people tell us what to do, we'll say no. There will be consequences to those actions, but I think, again, people like getting kicked off of Twitch or YouTube or having your bank account closed are, again, kind of like markers of you doing the right thing. And that people are going to respect that, or people are at least going to notice that. And, I certainly I follow tons. I mean, we went and watched Sam Hyde fight. in the O2 Arena in front of 20,000 people. This is a guy who had his life, career, reputation just dragged through the mud by malicious actors, and yet look at where he is. He had to go through a lot of pain, but he's now got, you know, multiple revenue streams, a booming, successful NFT empire. I guess I don't really get it, but that's going well. Produces amazing content, making video games, and is becoming, you know. And despite the fact that he was removed from existence, look, he's suddenly back in existence. He's suddenly, you know, as the Candyman, I guess, but he's back in people's in the and he never really left. He never really left. People have been memeing him for years. You know, he's omnipresent. So I really do view it as like there's tremendous opportunity in being yourself. In a world full of liars, being yourself and being honest is such a breath of fresh air that you don't need people to necessarily like agree with you or align with you on everything. They just appreciate someone who's not a complete psychotic like psychopath level liar.
I think one of the hidden benefits of all this deplatforming, and it might be a bit ridiculous to say, but it's kind of like you're being thrown out of a city state. You're being exiled. Well, the city state is only so big, and if you get thrown out, you know, you now have the entire like wilderness to sort of find your footing in. You got all the mountains and all that. You're not allowed in the city state anymore. You're not allowed in within the confines of the prison camp. You're now thrown out into the wilderness where you're expected to die, but the entrepreneurial spirit often thrives in that sort of situation. So I
Yeah.
hope if we do get destroyed in the eyes of the get deplatformed, whatever it'll be. I mean, by the way, we're not unreasonable people. We're not gonna do things to antagonize people and to harass or anything like that. But
Well,
I expect we will be punished.
Yeah, no, sorry. No, yeah. We are absolutely not going to harass or target individuals because I read all the platform's TOSs. We're never going to do that.
But I mean, just like I said, we're not unreasonable. We're not going to just be like, yes, this guy, we don't like him don't like his face, so let's, you know, we're not going to do stuff like that. But
Well,
you know, I imagine we'll be deplatformed. But the point that I was trying to make is that, you know, if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, which is sort of hated so much in this society, you should be able to. I mean, I say should, but thinking how things ought to be rather than how things are. But you should be able to find your footing out in that world. And like Sam Hyde, he's more popular than he's ever been.
yeah.
And this is after his show has been destroyed.
Yeah, and it really isn't like, it isn't about should, it is about like you will. If the actions that you took got you to that point, then you will find your footing because you're already someone who has the strength of character to do and say the things that nobody else is willing to. You know, you will go ahead and build rapture. It's inevitable. So
I mean, one trend that I'm seeing is a lot of people, and this is what we're trying to achieve with our endeavor. A lot of people are very tired of games right now, and games are going in a very
oh god, yeah.
uninspiring, boring, concerning bad direction, and the trajectory is down. There are still great games, but the quality of these big releases is getting worse and worse.
And even those big games are marred with, I mean, we said on the last episode, it's like we're looking forward to Dark Tide, but am I looking forward to the fact that it's riddled with microtransactions? No. So I can't, you know. And when was the last big launch that was good? That actually was a successful launch, and people generally liked that.
Elden Ring, I'd say.
Which one?
Elden Ring.
Yeah. What about in terms of multiplayer, especially though? Like, when was the last?
I mean, that's got a lot of multiplayer elements. But I guess Overwatch 2, but I don't know. I mean, that to me, like you said, is like reheated Overwatch just so they can sell everything again.
Yeah, it's straight up like they've clearly hit this point where they're like, we're not hitting the levels of profits that we need to. Loot boxes just ain't cutting it anymore. I guess because that's like a variable, like, you know, the battle pass system is kind of consistent money that people have to spend, and I assume they're going to have, either they already do or they will have like subscription services built in. That's what they want. So they went, look, it's just easier if we just blow the game up and then relaunch it, which is all it is. So, you know, and people are very upset. I mean, we could go down an Overwatch route. I mean, I've been watching a lot of like people talking about that game. It's also not good. They've made a lot of changes for the worse to broaden appeal and to make it more accessible. The same shit that we hear everywhere else.
Well,
So
that's what I was driving at is the people who are getting disappointed and seeing the trend of things getting worse and seeing their favorite games ruined and seeing franchises burn. Those people, they're disenfranchised, and we're trying to capture their attention because we're going to try and make games that resurrect that sense of joy that you might have had from those games originally, and try to buck the trend of that sort of crap. Because the way games are being made now by these big studios, they're using new ways of doing things because there's this new modern audience that they're trying to appeal. More importantly, they're trying to create, they're trying to transform people into this new modern audience member, and they think they can achieve that, and they think that by doing so they can make crap entertainment, they can make crap video games and music.
they can
I do.
tell you that you have to like it. You know, the way that Saints Row was approached and the articles that they put out ahead of that was, what, you're not down with us rebranding? Of course we can't do a Saints Row game like 2006. And it's like, no, you can't, because that game was good and what you released was absolute janky shit. And what was the latest headline? Next, the next update, 200 bug fixes in Saints Row. And it's like, oh look, another game that launches completely broke, makes some money, and they go, oh, we'll fix it later.
Saw a video about the community manager for Saints Row. Holy shit! I mean, talk about being unreasonable.
Let's be careful about what we say. Yeah, hang on, Michael, for the TOS check. We can call people unreasonable. That's not targeted abuse, right? We're not talking about their physical attributes. We're not talking about their personality. Well, I guess unreasonableness is a personality trait, but we're talking about their professional conduct, not necessarily who they are. Who that person is fucking lovely. I love them. They're great. Really good, well-rounded person. It's just professionally, we just disagree, dude.
I have disagreements with their way they apply their communications to the community. Yeah, but it's fascinating to watch because I would never speak like that to people.
Yeah.
People, I'm hoping that when people speak to us, we can maintain a sort of pleasant demeanor and be honest and open and not sort of lambast people, or be as challenging.
Well, apparently we're not allowed to fucking lambast. I'd love to lambast people, but we can't. We got to get on like Cozy or something to do. We got to get on a platform which doesn't have TOS in order to actually. I really want to go off on several people actually, but I'm just not allowed to because everything is now hate speech. Everything is harassment. Everything is naughty no behavior. But again, like the city state point, it's like, yeah, platforms like Cozy and others will rise as a consequence of this, and they will become successful.
If you're in the city state, if you're inside the walls, you can't shout.
Yeah, you got to play.
If you go outside the walls, you can shout through a megaphone at the city state. So it's like freedom's outlawed and the outlaws are free, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that'd be a good place to wrap it up before we really step it, because we've skirted on the lines of TOS. We're experimenting, we're trying things out. We'll see how it goes. But
call it some like TOS grinding,
TOS
grinding, like right on the line.
Yeah, I like that. And we'll see. As we cut this content up, we'll see if any of it gets auto flagged. Who knows? But
Badge it does.
Again, I've said this in our internal discussions. Like, if we're gonna step, like we are talking about grinding the line, stepping over the line, shitting and pissing on the line, quite frankly. And it's like that's at some point something's gonna happen that the system goes, this is beyond the pale. I can't believe Andrew said this, or I can't believe Michael did that. We must kill him. It's inevitable. It's gonna happen. Especially the more comfortable I get talking about this kind of stuff, the more I do just want to sort of just go off. And at some point, it's those go off moments that usually get everybody else. So it's an inevitability, but then it does become a badge of honor, and it sort of then becomes like a rallying cry. Like we can use that to our advantage. Like, I'm not saying necessarily like, hey, Twitch staff, like, yeah, ban me today. Please ban me in like 38 months. Give us a good 38-month run, and then fucking have at it, because at that point, probably not going to give a shit.
Yeah. That's the dream. The dream is to be banned at the opportune moment.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the American dream of the 21st century.
Yeah, it used to be. You get your 50 acres of land, 100 acres of land. You get your nice farmhouse and a white picket fence, and these days it's more about getting utterly obliterated on Twitter at the precise moment that you can get everyone to like sign up to your merch store. It's like like when what was it? What was the thing that Crowder did? Where Steven Crowder launched that "Prepare for War" T-shirt line or something. Something big politically happened, and he was like immediately like sign up to Mug Club to get 10% off these T-shirts. I think he got like banned. It was something like he got banned off of like YouTube or something, and so he was like, time to print new T-shirts. That's the new hustle. That is the new like the new grift.
Well, go back to the Sigma Male grind set, where all your clothes are sponsored and you review them. You're photographing everything so you can turn it into a Sketchfab asset to sell, and you're doing ASMR into your phone as you're walking around streaming, right? Whilst on your way to your VW caddy full of Hermes parcels,
while eating your tube of bugs.
Yeah,
eating bug paste.
Reviewing the bug paste, of course, so you can get the ad clicks and stuff.
Yeah, that's the fun future in store. Well, I think let's wrap it up there. So thanks a lot for watching the Enemy stream. We're online every Tuesday and Thursday. Probably we're gonna stick at the sort of 3-4 o'clock time slot. Maybe we go earlier, don't know. And also, just as a side, Michael, the bot worked. I did get a Discord bot working, which is maybe why some of the folks appeared, like Christine and whatnot. So hello everyone, thanks for coming. Hopefully it was the bot that did a great job. But we only get 24 more notifications, and then I have to pay £2 a month for it. So all the more reason to sign up to our Patreon right now. Everybody sign up, give us loads of money.
We need to make £2 basically, otherwise we'll be at a loss. We can't afford the bot.
Yeah, basically our business is relying on this Discord bot, so please send us £2 ASAP or we're dead.
If we can get 2,000 people, each giving us like less than a penny.
Yeah, and if I can deliver 30 Hermes packages a day, and we can get 2,000 people to give us £2, we'll be ready to do our ASMR boys in bathtub ASMR yogurt eating audio experience.
Yeah, baths aren't cheap.
Shit, you're right. Fuck, we're not gonna be able to do that. We need to factor in heating costs. Shit.
Water utilities. Yeah, it's an expensive operation.
It is. Okay. All right, you might find me down Canal Street tomorrow night. Maybe tonight. You'll find me on Canal Street. My rates are good. Okay? My rates are low. Not the lowest, but they're good. Okay? And I'll just leave it at can I say that? No, yeah, if that's TOS fine as well, Michael, right? I'm not saying anything. I'm not soliciting any service. I'm just saying my rates are good.
It's probably fine. Fuck it, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just talking about my Canal Street rates. That's it. That's all I'm talking about.
Michael, you're gonna have to memorize the terms of service.
Yeah, I need you to be you've got to be like our guardsman on this shit. Like
I'm the toss guy.
Don't say that. Toss guy. Because I was just talking about being the toss guy. I'm talking about being the Canal Street toss guy. You've got to be my guardsman to tell me, hey, you're not allowed to prostitute yourself online.
Okay, now you've just made it obvious.
Yeah, but it's all jokes. It's joke, guys. I don't sell myself for sexual services. Not yet, at least. Let's see how the winter goes. If
the £2 mark on Patreon in like 6 months, that's what's going to have to happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah, if you guys don't send us money, I'm going to start an OnlyFans, and then you're going to have to sign up there.
Gonna have to start gobbling goo in more way than you got the joke. My mouth didn't want to finish it though.
I'm not surprised. It was a horrible thing to say.
Too busy gobbling goo.
Too busy. All right, we'll transition to the outro. So thanks a lot for watching. See you at the next Enemy stream.